5 lower at 10.12. December oats 8 higher, 7.49. Live cattle December up 117, 131.80. February up 127, 137.12. November feeder cattle up 85, 158.87. January up 142, 159.60. December hogs 132 lower, 76.55. February down 70, 79.47. That's how the markets closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen reporting for Dwayne Murley.
Michael Devine and Janece Valentine, now at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's a pretty macho voice to introduce Janece Valentine, as she is the fabulous Janece Valentine, who's on the phone with us now. How are you doing, Janece?
Well, fabulous, Mike. How about you?
Well, I'm really good. As a matter of fact, it's not snowing.
Isn't that? And we're in November.
And we're in November.
We're just that far ahead.
Janece Valentine is an attorney in Fort Dodge. She practices primarily in workers' compensation and personal injury. There is no fee for first consultation. Janece is at Valentine Law Office, PC, Janece Valentine, J. Valentine, at valentinelaw.net. You may contact the Valentine Law Office by calling 515-955-5544, or she's at 415 the Boston Center, 809 Central Avenue here in Fort Dodge, or on her website is at www.valentinelaw.net. And of course, Janece rocks. She's been on this program now for years, so I'm always glad to be talking with you, Janece.
Well, likewise, Mike.
I think the country got a little bit of a shock here just in the last few days. First of all, it wasn't necessarily a shock that the Atlanta Braves won the World Series, but I really thought the Astros were going to. And now that the Braves have won, I'm fine. I'm good. It's the end of the baseball season. I'm a baseball fan, and they played their hearts out, so I have no problem with that.
I'm not a huge baseball fan, but did I read correctly that mid-season they were like 50-50?
Actually, the Braves were 16 games on the downside column, and they came back.
Yeah, and wasn't the big star of the show? Wasn't he traded? Like he was in a big slump or not hitting well at all.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
All those things happened. So it was unlikely the Braves got there, but once they did, they looked great. They just looked like a great team. And
I watched some of it because those games are fun to watch. And there's this year I thought there was a lot more offense. So it was a little more exciting to get to see all those grand slams.
Well, there were a bunch of them, I'll tell you. But the more surprising thing to some people, anyway, is that Terry Mcauliffe, who was a longtime ally of the Clintons and a former governor of Virginia, was beaten in Virginia, which has been trending blue for the last 10 to 12 years. He lost to a businessman who Donald Trump endorsed. Now, in fairness, Mr. Youngkin, who is the new governor of Virginia, stayed as far away from Donald Trump as he could, which I think is a good, for any Republican running, pay attention to what just happened with Youngkin out in Virginia, because he did not embrace Trump. He did not run on any Trump policies. But there's a pretty big thing that he did run on, and that is the professional class. Sometimes, not sometimes. Well, I'll have to say sometimes. It seems like the professional education class is ignoring the wishes of the teachers. Now, I watched for the MSNBC response the following day, and they were all saying the Republicans used dog whistles for racism when the Republicans under Mr. Youngkin tried to make this about critical race theory. I don't think, from what I saw of the Youngkin campaign, that that's what he did at all. He pounded away on the fact that the education establishment was ignoring the parents' concerns. And by the way, there were some pretty raw books in the junior high library discussing explicitly sexual acts between same-sex people. Now, that wasn't in the Algona, Iowa high school library when I was in school, and I don't think it probably was down in Carroll either. But I would be opposed to sexual acts, explicit sexual acts being described at the junior high or high school level. You get into college, it's kind of a different thing. But I really think that the Democratic Party ought to pay attention. And by the way, the court system was in play at the same time. The point I'm trying to make here is that the people of Virginia and perhaps of the United States are growing increasingly disillusioned of the political parties and of our institutions. Now, keep in mind, Virginia is just south of Washington, D.C., and the people who put Youngkin in office are the educated professional class. They work in Washington, D.C., and they're kind of sick and tired of what's happening in schools and maybe with our governmental institutions as well. Did you think of anything like that? Probably not. I think that.
Well, no, I again, this is a Virginia campaign.
Yes.
To be honest, I don't really care. But I did hear, snippets while you're driving or whatever, commentators talking, and I heard a brief part of his congratulatory speech or victory speech. And it does sound like his main tenet was running on parents in charge.
Yes.
And, I think that there's a fine line there. Clearly, which parents are we talking about? Is it just certain kinds of parents, or are all parents able to voice their concerns? And so I think we need to, keep that in the mix, that parents come in all different sizes, shapes, colors, religions, backgrounds. And so if we're talking about parents, I hope we're not just talking about white, middle class to upper class parents. That isn't really what public school is all about. And so I have that concern. And the other part that I kind of lopped onto was, I think the Democratic Party has lost its way in terms of even the working class, and the messaging that's going on. And you are right. This Youngkin, if that's how you say his name, he walked the fine line of not pissing off his Trump supporters, but not embracing them,
right.
And saying, I'm not going to rally, because it sounds like Trump went down there a couple times to rally and he didn't participate. And I think clearly that might be a blueprint that gets followed by other candidates moving forward. It also, hopefully, at least for me personally, hopefully it might show former President Trump that his relevance has waned.
I kind of hope so. I don't need any more of that drama personally.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to force himself to let it go. I just don't think he's that person. But it should tell people around him that his relevance is gone.
Well, I think there is. In fact, I know there is a moral and intellectual argument in opposition to critical race theory and to transgender people assuming a role in our society, in some areas of our society. By the way, I'm going, ladies and gentlemen, again, a guy I used to work with here at the radio station back in the 80s is a transgender man. Well, actually, he's a transgender woman. He was a man, now he's a woman. And he'll be with us next week, and I'll be asking him frankly, and I'll tell him frankly, I don't get it. I do not understand this at all. Please explain it to us the best you can.
No, I think that's great, because that's how we learn and how we grow, and it is by asking questions that, while it may sound offensive, but if the person being asked the question is willing to help us all better understand that, I think that's a good thing. I just do. And with this critical race theory, first of all, that's not K through 12 curriculum. That's not what's being taught in our schools. So I think people that are just racing to saying, we've got to do something, we've got to fix this, we can't have critical race theory in our schools, really don't even understand what it is. And if you've watched some interviews with people, where people have come up to them and said, in fact, I think I saw one with a Virginia voter where they just, were on the street. What's your biggest issue? And he said critical race theory. And the interviewer said, well, what is that? And he's like, I don't know, but I don't like it. And that's his number one issue, and he doesn't even know what it is.
Well, I know what it is. If somebody had asked me that question, I would have been happy to hash it out with him right there. I mean, that sounds like, the media, and having been in radio for all these years, I kind of know that we in the media play games. I mean, we want to find somebody who discredits the side that we favor. And if you're finding somebody on the street who says critical race theory is my biggest thing, and then he doesn't know what it is, I mean, that's a perfect foil.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you, but I also believe that there's a whole lot of those people out there, that think it's a big deal, but don't really even know what it is.
Well, I do. I've bought all the literature, do a lot of reading, and talk to as many people as I can. And by the way, MSNBC reaction again is that this was just racism. No, it's not. We're tired of you dictating the terms of our lives to us. We're tired of you dictating what our children are going to learn or how they're going to think or speak. That's the issue. I know the left and in the MSNBC crowd wants to avoid that, but that's the real issue. There's just been too many edicts lately, and I got my third shot on Thursday, Janece. As you know, I think I told you that.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay, but there is such a thing as COVID fatigue, and the insistence by education bureaucrats that we all toe the same line. And believe me, Janece, a lot of time those education bureaucrats don't know what they're talking about. They're just being safe, they think, and absolving themselves of any responsibility. Well, we should all think more. We should think more. Maybe we got used to this easy life where, okay, you guys handle this. We're going to vote for you. We're going to put you in office, and we'll vote in a school board or this or that or a council or board of supervisors, and you guys take care of it. But what has happened is that political parties of all stripes have decided they can change the world through these little school board seats and these little county board of supervisor seats and city council seats. By the way, we had a council election and a mayor's election. Somehow Bemrick got through.
He just squeaked.
Yeah.
I heard the write-in campaign was strong.
I don't, Matt was here yesterday. We talked for almost an hour, and I forgot to ask you if anybody had been written in as mayor. And but he did remind me that only 2 people. I think this is he's going to enter his 13th year as mayor.
Wow.
When he's sworn in January. And he's only had 2 opponents. And Cindy Litweiler was the first opponent Matt had. I knew Cindy, very capable person. She would have made a great mayor. Matt won and is a great mayor and has been a great mayor. Then there was P.T. Larson, but that's it in all these years. Those are the only people that have run against him. And Cindy, God rest her soul, is no longer with us, of course. But we're
just fortunate that he does such a good job.
I have been impressed with Matt Bemrick for a long time. When he first was mayor, it was a long time ago, and I'd had this show already for a year, and I was dealing with Lutz for the previous year, and Terry was a lot of fun, but Lutz was a real sharp guy, and it turned out Matt Bemrick was too, and he can manage people really well. He knows there's a line you do not cross with him. If you, he's accommodating. He does his best to see everyone's point of view. But if you start to get tough, he'll get tough with you. And the conversation should be over if you have a brain in your head at that time.
Well, and, going back to Terry Lutz, I really do think that was when Fort Dodge turned the corner.
Yeah.
I really do. And part of that is a change in how our city was managed as well. But it's just been such a dramatic change in voice and what's been happening, and it's really fun to see that.
Yeah, Lutz was a piece of work, I'll tell you. I haven't seen him now for a while, but he every now and then after he left for several years, he'd stop in and say hello, which is always great. But I thought I might see him at Fort Dodge Forge's 25th anniversary celebration a few weeks ago, but I didn't see him. Too bad. But I think he's still working down in Ankeny. His company, of course, will continue, but I'm sure he's still active. I don't think he can He's not one of those guys who can just sit down. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Our guest is Janece Valentine. What the hell is going on with the Iowa Hawkeyes, Janece?
I don't know. It's hard to watch, isn't it?
Oh, that was awful last week. The Purdue game was bad enough, but
I know it. Yeah, last week was just more punishment, really, as fans. And I don't know. I'm hearing wind that they're going to stick with the game plan, and leave Petrus in, or Petrus. I'm never quite sure which one.
Spencer Petrus, I think. I don't know. I don't
but,
know.
Yeah, I've heard that, but we got to figure out a way to. The line just needs to grow up, and maybe this is just what it looks like when you've got a young line and no time to throw. But even when they do give him time to throw, I get the sense that he is afraid that he's not going to have time to throw, and so he's just antsy back there and gets rid of it. Again, I've never been behind a line having 11 guys want to eat my head off. I've never done that. So I can imagine it's harrowing to be in that position.
Sure.
But the line just needs to be more consistent. And then I think because I think he's got a really accurate throw. I mean, when he hits it, it's in stride. It's amazing. And he's got an arm. I mean, it's long, but it's just ugly right now.
It is pretty ugly. I have the schedule here. I forgot who they're playing this week. I've got
Northwestern.
Northwestern. Well, Northwestern.
And they always have I don't know why I looked yesterday. I guess I didn't look today. We were 12-point favorites yesterday. And I'm just thinking, Northwestern is like a Purdue. Sometimes they just tag it when they're not supposed to.
Yeah. Then Illinois, and we finish out the season with Nebraska. God, I hope we beat Nebraska. I hate Nebraska.
Oh, I know. I have too many friends that will make that annoying.
Oh God, that's for sure. So, Janece, I'm going to ask you a question here. We were talking politics a little bit earlier. So, what do you believe is the crucial issue of the day, either at the state level or at the federal level?
I really think infrastructure is a big deal. And I know it's not sexy, but I think it's because it's not sexy and it doesn't get people riled up, it's been ignored. And so we've got, roads and bridges and, well, even if you include access to internet as part of infrastructure, we are way behind the curve in all of those things. And I think it's such a critical part, and we all just take it for granted. Nobody wants to pay for it, but everybody wants it. And I don't know of a town in Iowa that doesn't complain about their roads. I mean, Fort Dodge is in that mix too. But yet when people want to complain about something, it's their taxes or it's this, whatever. And that's what those dollars are needed for.
Yes.
We got to keep making our tax base better. And improve it in that way if we want to keep those numbers down and still have the improvements that we want. It doesn't work to go both ways.
If anybody wants to know why our roads are so bad, you should take a look
because we're in Iowa.
Well, that's one reason, but our roads, especially in Fort Dodge, were not kept up over the many, many years, going all the way back to Jim Janford and Clyde Nupp. I mean, and that's late 70s, early 80s, about the first time I came around. There was not a lot of discussion on streets or roads at that time. There wasn't
a plan.
No, there was none. And when I had a man who worked in a high position in the city for a long while, tell me the problem was they'd allocate money to repair roads or build new roads, but then some city councilman somewhere would try to direct that money to his ward. Okay, let's go down to this councilman's or councilperson's ward and we'll fix a couple streets. Well, the next thing you know, that councilman wanted to divert the money to something other than streets. And there was no check at the time. It was just, here, we're going to put a plate of money on the table and everybody start grabbing. So here we are. I think we're a little bit different now. And speaking of the council, I believe Mcauliffe is the first black man to hold office in Fort Dodge.
Oh, yeah, obviously Jane Burleson was with us for a number of years, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't know that for a fact, but it would be at least within the last 50 years that would be the case.
I would think.
Yeah, and I wish him all the best. I think he's going to bring a lot of energy, and I think he'll be a hard worker and work hard to get up to speed, because when you get those packet, I just take a glance at what the agenda is for those meetings.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually look at all the attachments, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to dig through, and I think he just has the energy to make that happen.
All right.
I'm happy for both he and Lydia. I think we're in good hands with those two.
I think so. I think so too. All right, Janece, I wish we could talk longer. I always do, but we're going to have to go. Thank you so much for being on.
Go Hawks.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Look, staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed effortlessly adjusts in response to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. Don't miss our weekend special. Save $1,000 on the Sleep Number 360 Special Edition Smart Bed, plus special financing. Ends Monday. Special financing subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See store for details.
Grief is a natural part of life. As hard as it is, we must find ways through it and not around it. We at Gunderson's help guide families through one of life's most difficult times, the death of a loved one. We are here to listen, hear your stories, and help create healing ceremonies, the first step in acknowledging and honoring your grief. We provide options, support, and answer questions when you need us most. The journey of grief is not one to walk alone. Gunderson's is here for you.
Small businesses across Iowa are continuing to show up for you. They're adapting, they're donating, they're keeping their doors and their hearts open to assist their employees and serve their customers, just like they always have. Small businesses are the backbone of Iowa's communities, and they're backed by Iowa banks. With helpful advice, affordable loans, and essential financial services, banks across Iowa are showing small businesses the way to a stronger tomorrow. Learn more at iowabankers.com.
Upper Des Moines Opportunity is now taking applications for Alpha Media's Bikes for Tykes event, sponsored by W&H Co-op and R&J Material Handling. If you want a brand new bike for your child for Christmas, you must apply by calling Upper Des Moines Opportunity now at 576-7774. Application deadline is November 24th.
Here's how the market trade closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen in for Dwayne Murley. Grains were mostly lower across the board. December core down 6 1/4, 553. March core down 5 1/2, 562 1/4. November soybeans 17 lower, 1192 1/4. January down 17 1/4, 1205 1/2. December bean meal down 310 a ton, 332.70. December soybean oil down 80 points at 58.78. December Chicago wheat 7 1/4 lower, 766 1/2. December Kansas City winter wheat 7 1/4 lower, 778 3/4. December Minneapolis spring wheat 5 lower at 10.12. December oats 8 higher, 7.49. Live cattle December up 117, 131.80. February up 127, 137.12. November feeder cattle up 85, 158.87. January up 142, 159.60. December hogs 132 lower, 76.55. February down 70, 79.47. That's how the markets closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen reporting for Dwayne Murley.
All right, thank you, Jesse. Sam Clovis will be with us in the next hour. Still 57 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 3 o'clock. Fox News is next.
It's everything digital on the Kim Commando Show every Saturday from 11 to 2 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
A public appeal from the president. On Lisa Brady, Fox News. He's urging the House to pass both parts of his economic agenda today.
Send the infrastructure bill to my desk. Send the Build Back Better bill to the Senate. Let's build an incredible economic progress. Build on what we've already done, because this will be such a boost when it occurs.
But it now appears both bills won't get a final vote today. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
House Democrats are delaying a vote on a nearly $2 trillion social spending package, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says. Several moderate Democrats have insisted on a deficit analysis on the plan from the Congressional Budget Office. That is likely weeks away. But House Democratic leaders are moving forward with plans to vote today on a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill that has been stalled by progressives who want both pieces of legislation voted on together. President Biden has been making calls trying to secure support for both bills. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. The president's public pitch this morning came after the new jobs report far surpassing expectations, with 531,000 jobs created in October. The president says COVID vaccination rules are part of the reason. He also announced plans to pre-order Pfizer's new COVID pill. White House Deputy Spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre.
Pfizer, with the collaboration of the NIH, showed incredible promising data for its antiviral pill that treats COVID. This is all subject to pending regulatory reviews.
The FDA already reviewing Merck's pill, which is similar and just won approval in Britain this week. Both medications aimed at reducing deaths and hospitalizations from COVID. They are celebrating in Georgia. A parade for the World Series champion Atlanta Braves today, their first title in 26 years. America is listening to Fox News.
Hello, Mr. Crane. I'm calling about today's appointment. The tree is scheduled to fall on your RV at 2:14 today.
Any way we can reschedule? We're really enjoying our trip.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that's our only opening.
Can it just be a little tree?
Let me check. No, sorry, our file says it's a huge one.
RV owners can't schedule when things go wrong on the road. That's why there's Progressive, a leader in RV insurance.
Is it 2:14 p.m. or a.m.?
You know, I'm not sure. Can I put you on a brief hold?
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Dell Technologies' biggest business sale of the year has arrived. Step up your vision with top tech up to 45% off during their early access Black Friday event. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Plus, get incredible savings on Windows 11 PCs, along with servers, monitors, and docks, all with free shipping. There's also special financing with Dell Business Credit. Get started by contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Nearly 3 weeks since missionaries were abducted in Haiti, the U.S. government has reportedly seen proof that at least some in the group are still alive. Reuters, citing a senior Biden administration official, the U.S. has been spearheading efforts to free the missionaries, 16 Americans and 1 Canadian, including 5 children. They were taken by a gang that Haitian officials say is demanding $1 million for each of them. Reports of a deadly fall at Russia's embassy in Germany.
Russia says a Russian diplomat has died in Berlin in what it calls a tragic accident. The confirmation comes after German newspaper Der Spiegel reported that a man had been found dead outside the Russian embassy, having apparently fallen from an upper floor. The newspaper says it's suspected the dead man wasn't a diplomat, but rather an undercover Russian spy. The embassy dismissed what it called incorrect media speculation. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
Peloton shares falling to a 17-month low.
They're going to make $1 billion less in sales this year, and they signed up the fewest amount of new subscribers in the summertime since the company went public almost 2 years ago. Less than 200,000 new signups, so they have a total now of 2.5 million members, and that's despite, by the way, Peloton cutting the price of their most popular bike by 20% over the summertime, which they thought would bring in more signups and new customers. Now, I counted 5 investment banks this morning downgrading their call on Peloton stock after those dismal reports.
Fox Business's Susan Lee. The Peloton skid, tapping the brakes on a NASDAQ rally after the index topped 16,000 for the first time today. Still another record day for Wall Street overall. The Dow up more than 200 points at the close, topping 36,300. The S&P topping 4,700 today. And oil prices climbing back over $81 a barrel. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Kelly Hennon.
Two teenagers from Fairfield, Iowa have been charged in the murder of Nohema Graber. Graber was reported missing by family members, and her body was discovered Wednesday in a local park. A press release from the Fairfield Police Department said special agents from the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation conducted a preliminary investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of Graber, which appears to be a homicide. 16-year-old Willard Noble Chayton Miller and 16-year-old Jeremy Everett Goodale have been charged with homicide in the first degree, a Class A felony, and conspiracy to commit homicide in the first degree, a Class C felony. Graber was a Spanish teacher at Fairfield High School, where Miller and Goodale were students. Due to the circumstances and their ages, Miller and Goodale will be charged as adults. The investigation into the incident is ongoing. A bipartisan group of 8 Midwest governors is asking the Biden administration to allow year-round sales of E15. A federal appeals court this summer struck down a 2019 rule which allowed year-round sales of E15 nationwide. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson spoke to Monty Shaw, executive director of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association.
If we are capped at E10, we are at best stuck in neutral, but in reality with better mileage cars, changes in driving habits, and the penetration of electric vehicles, we're actually in reverse and we will wither away.
Shaw said that the productivity of Iowa farmers deserves a home.
The amazing productivity of our farmers needs and deserves a home, and why shouldn't that be a fuel that's lower carbon and lower cost?
The letter from the governors is asking what documents they need to provide to make the change. And the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation is assisting in a homicide investigation in Wright County. According to a press release, the Wright County Communications Center received a call for assistance at an unattended death. Upon response, first responders found an unresponsive male identified as Mario Salvador Lopez. The Wright County Sheriff's Office was notified and the medical examiner was called. Lopez's body was sent to the state office of the Iowa Medical Examiner for autopsy, and his death is being investigated as a homicide. The Wright County Sheriff's Office and the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation continue to investigate the incident. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact law enforcement at 515-532-3722. For more information on these stories and more, log on to yourfortdodge.com. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Kelly Heinen.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon with a high of 59. South winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Lows level off around 39. Tonight, clear skies. High temperatures reach up to 68. Tomorrow, mainly clear. Upper 60s, Sunday, cooler on Monday with highs in the low 60s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 58.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 3:08. Sam Clovis will join us in a few minutes. Later on, Randy Kuhlman and Nevin Mulholland and I will talk sports. I'm right and they're wrong, of course. We are in the Blue Ribbon Pelham Water Studio at 612. Blue Ribbon Pelham Water Studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street here in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www.fdwater.com.
Here's how the market trade closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen in for Dwayne Murley. Grains were mostly lower across the board. December core down 6 1/4, 553. March core down 5 1/2, 562 1/4. November soybeans 17 lower, 1192 1/4. January down 17 1/4, 1205 1/2. December bean meal down 310 a ton, 332.70. December soybean oil down 80 points at 58.78. December Chicago wheat 7 1/4 lower, 766 1/2. December Kansas City winter wheat 7 1/4 lower, 778 3/4. December Minneapolis spring wheat 5 lower at 10.12. December oats 8 higher, 749. Live cattle December up 117, 131.80. February up 127, 137.12. November feeder cattle up 85, 158.87. January up 142, 159.60. December hogs 132 lower, 76.55. February down 70, 79.47. That's how the markets closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen reporting for Dwayne Murley.
Grief is a natural part of life. As hard as it is, we must find ways through it and not around it. We at Gunderson's help guide families through one of life's most difficult times, the death of a loved one. We are here to listen, hear your stories, and help create healing ceremonies, the first step in acknowledging and honoring your grief. We provide options, support, and answer questions when you need us most. The journey of grief is not one to walk alone. Gunderson's is here for you.
Why just listen to the Divine Intervention Show when you can watch it? The Blue Ribbon Pelham Water Studio is now streaming video. Check out the show Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on our Facebook video stream.
Hi, I'm Matt Johnson with Fort Dodge Ford Toyota, inviting you to come experience your full-service family store. Our goal at Fort Dodge Ford Toyota is to provide every customer with an outstanding sales and service experience. Your vehicle's journey is an important one, so our departments work in unison to ensure each moment is cared for.
We look forward to working with you and making you a part of the Fort Dodge Ford Toyota family. Fort Dodge Ford Toyota, your full-service family store.
Bye, people. You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD, banging Monday through Friday from 2 to 5.
Well, at least we got that straightened out. Sam Clovis joins us. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good. I love that. You know, the reason you're doing bad is because you're, well, I won't mention.
Yeah, it's just the way you are, I guess, and that's it.
Boy, does that sum it up.
It just sums it up. What do you think about what happened in Virginia and around the country in regard to parents finally asserting themselves or attempting to assert themselves against really some bullies and thugs in the education and political establishment?
Well, I thought it was fantastic. I think it was when you take a look at the ramifications of the parents standing up and that cultural issues really do matter, and I think that's one of the key issues. The other thing, though, is I don't, as I saw on Tuesday night, I saw a lot of instant analysis, and I think that people always want to go in there and race in there and say, "Oh yeah, this is it. This is the blueprint. This is what we have to do." And I think, you know, every election is different. Every election. It comes down, every election is local. All of the issues are local. And it depends on what's going on in each area. And it depends on the candidate. It depends on the money. It depends on everything else. So I do think there are some things to take heart in out of Virginia. But I before we all of a sudden decide this is the blueprint for success for the next century, I think we ought to probably take a pause.
Well, and I'm going to get to that with you, because there are some people saying that Mr. Youngkin out in Virginia won because he ran away from Donald Trump. But what I'd really like to address is the left's response to this. Of course, I tuned in Wednesday morning to MSNBC, and they were in a fury. And they were not in a fury over the increasingly arrogant and out of touch Democratic Party. They were outraged that so many people had bought into the racist dog whistle. And they went on for quite some time. Stephanie Rule, all the big stars over there at MSNBC. Right. They went on for some time about the racist dog whistles, and pretty much said, without out and out claiming it, but that anybody who didn't vote for the Democratic Party is a racist, and especially the white men. So there you go, Sam. Guys like you and I are terrible racists and known white men, and we're causing the downfall of the country.
Well, we're the eroding factor of the Western civilization.
There you go.
Very clear.
That's right.
Very clear. And I think that's the problem is that, you know, it's denial. When you're in denial, I think that you blame everybody else, and I think that's probably pretty typical of what's going on there. They don't want to accept the responsibility of saying that what they're advancing, nobody's buying. And I think that's really the case. You think about the fact that Youngkin outperformed Donald Trump by 11 points in the state of Virginia. That's pretty remarkable. Mm-hmm. And that's in 1 year. In 1 year, the difference was 11 points. And I think that if you take a look at his performance in some of those counties, he was far beyond the expectations, and I mean he had some of those counties were like Northwest Iowa. I mean, you know, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95%. How do you do that? How do you pick up 95% of the vote in a county. I mean, that's just astounding. And he was able to do that through much of that big swath south of northern Virginia all the way down to Bristol area down in that very southwest corner. Those are I think the other thing that you saw was, again, the classic divide between urban and rural. The difference was the soccer moms.
Oh, yeah.
The soccer moms were the ones that really made the difference in that, and that's the ones from the suburban and exurban areas. And so those are the things that you would really want to pay attention to if you were really looking at all of the. If you want to look at the vote thing, and the other part is Youngkin outworked Mcauliffe. Everything I heard from the people I know that were on the ground in Virginia said that Youngkin just absolutely was tireless. He was relentless. And they left no stone unturned. They left no vote at home. They went out and got every vote they could get. And certainly. I think that was pretty obvious by the results.
At one of the at one of the candidate forums, a parent stood up and read from a book that she got from the junior high library in the town that she lived in, right outside of Richmond, I believe. And by the way, Virginia is a beautiful state.
Yes, it is.
It just reeks of history. But this young woman didn't look like a prude to me, didn't look like my old aunt or any of the nuns over at St. Cecilia's. This young woman read aloud from a book from the junior high library that described two very young males in a very intense sex act. Mm-hmm. And I've never heard, for God's sakes, I was overseas for 2 years. I was in the military for 4 years, and I've drank in every dive in Northwest and North Central Iowa, and I never heard language like that before. And it was in a child's book in Virginia, in a junior high library in Virginia.
Right.
And I believe Mcauliffe said something really brilliant, like, well, we'll have to take a look at that. Oh, yeah, good idea. Yeah. Never mind that he should have come right over the podium and said, I condemn strongly efforts to bypass parents. Of course, this was done without the knowledge of the parents because, they'd make such a fuss.
Right.
And parents are morons and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, but Mcauliffe said that the parents, he didn't want the parents involved in the education.
That's the one line that he put out there. He said that he didn't think parents should have any say as to what happens in the school. That line sunk him. If there was one moment in the campaign, here's a sharp guy accidentally being honest in a public forum.
I think also it was the arrogance of a lot of the school boards. If you go to the Loudoun County, there was a lot of video of Loudoun County school board meetings and the arrogance of the board. I think you would go to almost any of the other situations where parents would stand up and confront the boards in various, and a lot of them were contentious. One of the things that I had been doing here is to help start the process of educating people on the sunshine rules here in the state of Iowa, on what anytime that people, public officials get together, what they're required to do and what they're not required to do. And they're not in a public meeting. They're not required to allow the public to speak. They're not required to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, the public can go in and record anything. They can go in and take video and audio of the meetings. They can do those kinds of things. I think that's one of the things that's critical there. The other part of it is that when you get away from the good old boy network is when you find out that if a majority of the officials meet, then that is considered a public meeting.
That's right.
And even if it's a barbecue, that is considered a public meeting, particularly if there any discussion of any kind takes place. That is considered public. And therefore, it has to be documented and it has to be made available to the people in a reasonable fashion. And so there are a lot of times that you'll find elected officials, and particularly elected county supervisors, that will try to get around those rules when they'll get together for coffee at the local, Cenex station and go in and have coffee. And, technically, that is considered a public meeting. And those are the kinds of things that people need to be made aware of so that they can go in and have a voice and start this movement at the local level, which is something I think that is critical for a lot of people to realize. And that the closer you are to the government is to the people, the better the government is. And I think that's something that people have to be aware of and go out and avail themselves of it.
Well, several years ago, we had council people. There was a big local controversy at the time. Two sides were squared off. And
Right.
But anyway, council people on one side were discovered meeting at another councilman's house.
Right.
And that was the beginning of the end for them. I mean, people don't like that idea. That was
and again, the rules are very clear. The state statutes, chapters 21 and 22 cover this. And if people are interested, they just look it up, and it's right there. The rules are right there. And so, and I think this is something that, I've told people, I said, all you've got to do, imagine how you would change the behavior of a school board meeting if you went in there and turned your phone on and started taking a video and audio of that meeting.
Yeah.
Imagine how the behavior of those people would change, and it would. It would change dramatically, knowing that they were being recorded. They would be on the record.
Sam, I've been in radio a long time, and I've seen educated men come into the studio, coat and tie, the whole thing, and I'll tell them 30 seconds before we go on the air. I give them a warning. And they'll sit up straight and straighten their tie. Now I'm on the radio, but it's just that, I'm about to be on, and it's just, I better look and sound good. So, but I've seen that more than once.
Oh, you bet. Likewise. And I think that's that's one of the things that you find. And the other part of it is when you get them and you stump them on something, and to see what their reaction is then.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have a couple of stories. I won't share them now, but they're maybe one of these days I will. But it was had to do with a former governor, and it was astounding. Just ask them one question or say something, and all of a sudden there's dead air, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that wasn't the right question.
Real deer in the headlights. Yeah, right.
Deer in the headlights. You bet. I mean, so how do I respond to this? Oh my God, So.
Yeah. Well, I've actually had some political figures stumble a little bit, and then finally you could see it click in their eyes. I'm not going to try to BS my way through this, and they just look at me and say, "I don't know. I'll have to find out for you," which I appreciate, and I think people listening appreciate. Well, you can't know every single possible thing that happens in every nook and cranny in government, for God's sake. And as a matter of fact, our mayor, who's a very, very competent mayor, and I'm a big fan of his, the first year or two he was the mayor. And this was after 4 years he was on the council, but every now and then I'd ask him a question, he wouldn't have the answer, but he would find out immediately, sometimes while we were still on the air. I go to a news break, he'd call over City Hall, find out the answer, come back and give it to me. But I always kind of admired him because he never hesitated. Well, I don't know. Now it's hard after 10 years or 12 years in office, it's hard to get one around him. But
yeah, well, I would bet, and particularly if you like him, so you're not going to sit there and tee things up that are, they're going to give him a hard time. So it's I do think that when I've always been amazed that people would not want to go on the radio. I mean, to me, it is one of the friendliest environments there is. I mean, it's the talk show hosts, they can, I know they can be tough, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for you to go out there and tell people what you know and to express your thoughts and your your opinions, and I've never understood why people would shy away from that. I just never have.
I'm not
I
Howard.
don't get it.
I'm not Howard Stern, who's going to ask some pretty young girl what sort of sex she likes and to describe it to us in great detail on the air. And that pig makes $100 million a year doing that. I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe we, there was a turn or two we should have taken maybe back in the day, and we didn't get those turns, or we weren't offered those kind of things. But but that's the other thing. I that's not in my DNA. I just don't.
It's not in mine either.
Do that. I just don't think I could.
I don't care if it was a porn star I had in the studio. I wouldn't start asking questions like that.
Not
ridiculous. Anyway, Sam Clovis is our guest here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. You kind of guffawed, if I may use that expression, the idea that Mr. Youngkin out in Virginia kind of stood away from Donald Trump. Do you think Trump will be an asset in the future to Republicans running for office?
Yes, I do. I think he already is. I think that a lot of it depends on the base. A lot of it depends on the temperament of the people and whether or not they would associate themselves with the president or not. I think that there are certain races where people would benefit greatly from his endorsement. I think there are other states and other races where perhaps not as much. And I think that people have to. What I would suggest to politicians, nobody listens to me, but if they would, I would tell them to get on the phone and talk to him, and to see what his temperature is on certain issues. And if you don't want him around, tell him.
Yeah.
And if you want him around, tell him. And he takes direction pretty well. And so I think that if the other part of it is don't be cute with him. Don't try to be cute, because he does not like that.
Yeah.
I think that there are politicians who try to thread the needle with him, and I just don't think that works. I think you go out and say, Mr. President, I just wish you wouldn't come around. I've got this. I need to do this. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I think. This is what I feel. And he'd probably agree. Now, on the other side of it, there are politicians that says, I need your help. I need you to come in, and he would do it. And I think, like I said, every race is different. Every state's different. Every constituency is different. And you have to be able to read that, to do the job adequately, and to make sure that you run the right campaign.
All right, Sam Clovis is our guest. Sam will come back on the other side of the news. Sam, give us a call back in about 8 minutes, will you, please?
I shall indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, broadcasting live.
Yeah, we're broadcasting live from the Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street here in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www.fortfdwater.com. It's 329.
With the Capital One Saver Card, you earn unlimited 4% cash back on dining out or in, 4% back on entertainment, or on popular streaming. And now, 3% back at grocery stores so you can make the cake that makes her day.
Happy birthday to you.
So earn unlimited cash back for going out or staying in with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Fever is the leading symptom of COVID and the flu, and the only way to reliably detect it is with an accurate thermometer. Be vigilant and be accurate with the Exergen Temporal Scanner, whose accuracy has been proven in more than 100 clinical studies. Don't rely on non-contact thermometers. They are proven to be inaccurate and will not reliably detect a fever that might mean COVID. Be sure to seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Learn more at exergen.com.
Upper Des Moines Opportunity is now taking applications for Alpha Media's Bikes for Tykes event, sponsored by W&H Co-op and R&J Material Handling. If you want a brand new bike for your child for Christmas, you must apply by calling Upper Des Moines Opportunity now at 576-7774. Application deadline is November 24th.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Kelly Hennon. 2 teenagers from Fairfield, Iowa have been charged in the murder of Nohema Graber. Graber was reported missing by family members, and her body was discovered Wednesday in a local park. A press release from the Fairfield Police Department said special agents from the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation conducted a preliminary investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of Graber, which appears to be a homicide. 16-year-old Willard Noble Chayton Miller and 16-year-old Jeremy Everett Goodale have been charged with homicide in the first degree, a Class A felony, and conspiracy to commit homicide in the first degree, a Class C felony. Graber was a Spanish teacher at Fairfield High School, where Miller and Goodale were students. Due to the circumstances and their ages, Miller and Goodale will be charged as adults. The investigation into the incident is ongoing. A bipartisan group of 8 Midwest governors is asking the Biden administration to allow year-round sales of E15. A federal appeals court this summer struck down a 2019 rule which allowed year-round sales of E15 nationwide. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson spoke to Monty Shaw, executive director of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association.
If we are capped at E10, we are at best stuck in neutral, but in reality with better mileage cars, changes in driving habits, and the penetration of electric vehicles, we're actually in reverse and we will wither away.
Shaw said that the productivity of Iowa farmers deserves a home.
The amazing productivity of our farmers needs and deserves a home, and why shouldn't that be a fuel that's lower carbon and lower cost?
The letter from the governors is asking what documents they need to provide to make the change. And the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation is assisting in a homicide investigation in Wright County. According to a press release, the Wright County Communications Center received a call for assistance at an unattended death. Upon response, first responders found an unresponsive male identified as Mario Salvador Lopez. The Wright County Sheriff's Office was notified and the medical examiner was called. Lopez's body was sent to the state office of the Iowa Medical Examiner for autopsy, and his death is being investigated as a homicide. The Wright County Sheriff's Office and the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation continue to investigate the incident. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact law enforcement at 515-532-3722. For more information on these stories and more, log on to yourforddodge.com. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Kelly Heinen.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon with a high of 59. South winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Lows level off around 39. Tonight, clear skies. High temperatures reach up to 68. Tomorrow, mainly clear. Upper 60s, Sunday, cooler on Monday with highs in the low 60s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 58.
Here's how the market trade closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen in for Dwayne Murley. Grains were mostly lower across the board. December core down 6 1/4, 553. March core down 5 1/2, 562 1/4. November soybeans 17 lower, 1192 1/4. January down 17 1/4, 1205 1/2. December bean meal down 310 a ton, 332.70. December soybean oil down 80 points at 58.78. December Chicago wheat 7 1/4 lower, 766 1/2. December Kansas City winter wheat 7 1/4 lower, 778 3/4. December Minneapolis spring wheat 5 lower at 10.12. December oats 8 higher, 749. Live cattle December up 117, 131.80. February up 127, 137.12. November feeder cattle up 85, 158.87. January up 142, 159.60. December hogs 132 lower, 76.55. February down 70, 79.47. That's how the markets closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen reporting for Dwayne Murley.
The UN Climate Change Conference is making headlines with more than 100 countries pledging to reduce methane emissions by 2030. But what does it all mean? I'm Amy Simpson with Healthy Living on Brownfield. David Hughes, also known as Dr. Food, is an emeritus professor of food marketing who has 4 decades of experience working with food companies, associations, and governments around the world.
The huge offer, and also it's US driven, to reduce methane emissions by 30% by 2030.
Methane is the second most abundant greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide, accounting for about 20% of global emissions. Methane emission sources include landfills, oil and natural gas systems, coal mining, wastewater treatment, agriculture, and more. He says the pledge will lead to some changes for the agriculture industry.
Reducing food waste, improved manure management, sorting out climate-smart agricultural practices. And it'll be interesting to see the response, if you will, in the US, to see that there are costs associated with methane reduction. Who will carry that? Will it be the consumer? I doubt it'll be the consumer. It'll be part of the food industry.
The livestock industry is sometimes singled out for methane, but a leader with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association has said they're actively engaged to ensure the cattle industry is recognized for a strong record of environmental stewardship. I'm Amy Simpson with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Crooked teeth may embarrass kids whose families can't afford braces, and trying to fix their teeth themselves can make things worse. Luckily, there's Donated Orthodontic Services, a program from the American Association of Orthodontists. For children and teens who qualify and are matched with a volunteer orthodontist, treatment can be life-changing and help them smile with confidence. Learn more at aaoinfo.org.
This is Ernie Johnson Jr. Sports is about overcoming obstacles, and college coaches work hard to help young men overcome Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's called Coach to Cure MD, and you can help. Text the word CURE to 501-501 to donate $25 on your next mobile phone bill, or go online to coachtocuremd.org. Text the word CURE to 501-501. Help coaches cure MD.
Brought to you by the American Football Coaches Association and Werner Ladder.
There's confusion about how to protect yourself from COVID, but one thing is for sure. Whether or not you're vaccinated, you need an accurate thermometer. Contact your medical provider at the first sign of fever, the leading sign of COVID and the flu. Only the Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer has been proven accurate in more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and don't rely on non-contact thermometers. They have no scientific studies behind them and can miss the fever that might mean COVID. Learn more at exergen.com.
Folks, it looks like food shortages are here and going to stick around. Supply chains are breaking down, and inflation is back with a vengeance. It's all part of the shortage economy. What used to be unthinkable is now in the headlines. Are you ready? Do you currently have a stockpile of emergency food at home? If not, go to mypatriotsupply.com today, and you'll find an emergency food kit that's right for you and your family. My Patriot Supply is the largest preparedness company in America, serving millions of families like yours. Pick up a 3-month food kit that stays fresh for up to 25 years in proper storage. The meals in the kit provide over 2,000 delicious calories a day. That's important when you need to survive. Order from mypatriotsupply.com and your food will ship fast in unmarked boxes to protect your privacy. Don't wait for permission or more empty store shelves. Go to mypatriotsupply.com now. mypatriotsupply.com.
Finding the right Medicare plan may feel impossible, but now it's anything but. With Walgreens Find RX coverage tool, you can compare plans online, over the phone, or in person, making Medicare easier than ever. Easier than picking which true crime doc to watch, figuring out that Wi-Fi password, or putting the duvet cover back on. So if you can do those things, with Find RX coverage, you can definitely Medicare. Find the plan that's right for you by visiting walgreens.com/Medicare.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD, banging Monday through Friday from 2 to 5.
All right, we're back on the air with Sam Clovis, of course, a well-known person in our state and really in the country. And tell us again what position you held in the Trump administration.
Well, I was the national co-chair and chief policy advisor to the campaign.
National co-chair, that's what I
the-
thought, yeah.
Yeah. And then I was the senior White House advisor at the Department of Agriculture.
Okay. So Trump, 24, do you suppose?
Well, if you'd asked me, you've asked me that before, and I said I thought maybe it was a 50-50, maybe. I think he's leaning more toward it now than I think there's some encouraging news out there. I think we have to wait and see what 2022 does. If it looks like we are able to swing 2022, 24, and I think he gets in, and I think that he wants a Congress. If he has a Republican Congress, I think that he might jump in if he thought he would have one.
Well, Biden has been, to say the least, struggling.
You think?
I mean, the Virginia governor's race, they brought in the heavy hitters. Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Ms. Abrams, is it Stacey Abrams?
Stacey Abrams.
All the stars. And, Kamala Harris was there. And nothing happened. Nothing happened for McCullough.
Well, I think again, I think they took a lot for granted. It reminded me a great deal of Hillary Clinton taking a lot for granted in 2016, and I think that Terry McAuliffe took a lot for granted in Virginia.
Oh yeah, it seemed to be that. He was pretty sure that he was going to be the next governor. Well, he's been governor before. This is what do they? They have governors. They must have the governor's office restricted to one term at a time. There's no such thing.
One term at a time. That's exactly right.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm all for term limits, but that's a little severe. I think that's a little severe. The Republicans continue to make gains in Iowa politics.
Right.
Do you see this continuing?
I do. I think that there's I think a lot of it's going to be measured in the pocketbook. It always is. I think it always comes down to that. That Bill Clinton had it right. It's the economy, and it always is. I think it comes down if people are comfortable and they feel that their lives are good and they're heading in the right direction. I think that you have a chance of incumbency as people don't want to mess up the status quo. If things are not going well, then and particularly all you have to do is that lovely school marm that I'm married to, the first words out of her mouth every night, I swear to God, Mike, are, do you know how much I'm paying for gasoline now? Do you know?
Yeah.
And I said, of course I don't, honey. So she said, $3.29. It was $3.19 a week ago. What in the world's going on? And of course, she flowers it up quite a bit from there. But but that's what I hear. That's the first words out of her mouth every night. So,
well, the price of milk has gone up, and when mothers start paying more for milk and other food, whoever's running the country is in big trouble. By the way, there is a theory out there, and I'm an adherent to this theory, is that Joe Biden wants the price of gas to go through the roof, so that we'll be the consumer, the voters, will be turned off with the idea of fossil fuels, and they'll more readily embrace electric cars and all that.
That's not how they think. That's not how people think.
It isn't. I only bring that up because that shows how out of touch, if this is true, and I'm a subscriber to the theory. If this is true, God, how much more out of touch can they be?
Well, I think, when you take a look at it, I said, you can go out there and look at all of the electric cars that people are advertising, the Ford F-150E or whatever it's called. And people might buy that in our part of the country might buy that truck because if your power goes out in your house, you can plug that into your truck and your truck can power the electricity in your house. I mean, that's kind of an expensive generator, if you ask me, when you can go out and get a Generac for about 1/10 of the cost of a F-150. So, I mean, that's I keep thinking about all of the different aspects that we see out here, people So where are we going to put all the charging stations? And then how long are you going to have to wait? If you go 300 miles on a charge, if you're a commuter and you're working in town and you don't have to go very far, I get it. I have friends of mine in Manassas, Virginia, own a Tesla, and they swear by it because that's all the further they drive. They don't use that car to go on a cross country trip because it only goes 350 miles on a charge, and then you got to wait 8 hours, and then those are the kinds of things that get in the way of that. So I think that people look at fossil fuel vehicles, look at what they buy. They buy F-150s and they buy SUVs. That's what they buy. I mean, the most popular vehicle in America is the Ford F-150.
Sam
the
Clovis.
most popular vehicle in America.
Sam Clovis is our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. There is concern in Pennsylvania. They elect Supreme Court judges in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And there is a lot of money pouring into the Supreme Court race.
Right.
I talked earlier about being in favor of term limits. If there's one place I'm in favor of term limits, it is the Supreme Court. I'm not really in favor of electing them. I believe that elections do have consequences. So if a governor wants to nominate a justice, fine. And if the nomination is approved, fine. But there should be some sort of term limits for justices. Now, the argument opposed to that is that the justices' careers will be ruined then. They're going to have to step away from their private practice or whatever to serve, let's say, 10, 12 years max on the Supreme Court. I don't think concern for the judges' careers or the potential judges' careers is really something that serves our country very well. What is your opinion on the Supreme Court in these mondo races like is happening in Pennsylvania right now, where there's just ungodly amounts of money being poured into those races?
I don't think a judge ought to be elected. I think that gets the politics of that are we already have enough politics in the legal system as it is. I think what we really ought to do is we ought to have, if you have 7 judges like we have in Iowa, then you ought to have a term limit of 7 years that you go on and you serve. And then that way, every year, one judge is changed. And you have that constant change there. And then, and over the course of time, I think you can do that. Or you go with a 14-year term and every 2 years, the judge is changed. I think that's the kind of thing you ought to be looking at. I think in the Supreme Court of the United States, I think that they ought to be limited to 20 years. I think that ought to be, and Congress has the authority to do that. They have the authority to offer that amendment up to limit the term of a judge, and it says in there that that they can serve as long as that their temperament is there, and I think that those are the kinds of things that we ought to look at. Do I think that would happen? No, but I think that's what ought to happen. And so, because I think it's hard for the American people to get their heads around anything where you talk about something as fundamental as changing the structure of the Supreme Court or going to the fact that you have term limits when it comes to judges.
The very first time I met you, of course, was out at Iowa Central a number of years ago. I've referred to it several times over the years, yes. But you discussed a court packing scheme that President Franklin Roosevelt had way back in the day. As a matter of fact, President Joe Biden is supposedly studying the issue of packing the Supreme Court because he doesn't like the composition of the court. Should that sort of thing be seriously considered?
No, I don't think that. The other part of it is if he has a Congress that would approve the expansion of the Supreme Court, let's say to 11 or to 15 seats, I think that then you have a jurisprudence problem because you end up with the issue delays and time, and because there are more people involved, there's more opinions that have to be written, all of that. So you delay. So justice delayed is justice denied. That's the phrase. And I think that right now we have a system that is there, and elections do have consequences. And I think that when Donald Trump was elected, that we ran on the notion that he would get the opportunity to appoint at least one, if not more, judges, and he did. He appointed 3, and I think that was a pretty substantial change in the makeup of the court when you think about it. And I think that I think there are some judges that would like to step down. I think Clarence Thomas would like to retire, but I don't think he's going to retire until there's a Republican in the White House, because Clarence Thomas, through his career, has been by far the most consistent in his conservative views, his originalist views on the Supreme Court and the decisions that he's made.
He's
and he is brilliant beyond words, by the way.
Justice Thomas is the only justice I've heard in a number of years to refer to the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment of the Constitution, if it's not specifically in the Constitution, is referred to the states for adjudication.
Or to the people.
To the people, right, which is kind of my take, which is why I'm in favor, really, of not direct elections of justices. I walk up to the threshold of that idea quite a bit, but I think that justices should be appointed, but they shouldn't serve for life or 30 years or any of that sort of nonsense. But the question is there a 10th Amendment?
Well, you ask yourself, is there a 10th? And then you go back and say, is there a 9th? And then I personally would like to ask the question of the Mueller investigation, is there a 4th? Because I think there were a lot of people that came under a lot of scrutiny there that frankly, illegally, because the courts were lied to about the activities of individuals. And the 4th Amendment says you have to be confronted with evidence. And if you have to be advised if there are criminal charges pending against you. And if the FBI or the Justice Department does not do that, then I think that you are a victim. And I hate using that word, but you are a victim of a runaway and out of control government that does not comport with the Constitution. And I think that is certainly something that has to be addressed. I worry more about the centralization of power inside the national government, and then the concentration of power inside the executive branch. That to me is something that has to be addressed at some point. It would be hard to reverse, but it's not impossible to reverse. Well, I think that's something that has to be done.
The Democratic Party's in disarray. I mean, they wanted 2 votes today. Nancy Pelosi practically assured us this morning there was going to be a couple of major votes. Neither one of them is going to come to pass. The moderates in the Democratic Party have risen as a result of recent events.
Right.
This
there are a lot of people up for re-election that they're looking down the barrel of a gun right now.
Yeah, Cindy actually is apparently under a lot of pressure from Nancy Pelosi to run again for Congress. There was a rumor that Representative Ashley was going to run for governor, but I don't think that's going to happen now. I think if Cindy actually was smart, I think she'd run for governor. She might have a better chance of winning. But I'm astounded that President Biden, day before yesterday, when asked directly and specifically if there were going to be payouts to migrant families, illegal migrants to our country, if there was going to be payouts as a result of the brutal Trump administration and the horrible racists and the whole thing, the whole routine. And Biden strongly told the reporter that was garbage, that reporters shouldn't put out that kind of garbage, and it was not true, and on and on and on. This morning
It's in
I
the
get
bill.
this
Yeah,
morning
it's
this
in
morning
the
I
bill.
wake up and find out that the Justice Department has been negotiating with the ACLU to do exactly that. All of a sudden, Joe Biden isn't at the podium. One of his spokespeople is, and she says the president is fine with negotiating these settlements to migrant families. I mean, the man doesn't know what's going on in his own administration.
Right. Well, I just don't know. I don't know if anybody knows what's going on. I mean, you really have to work at it to screw it up that bad, in my mind. So it almost has to be on purpose.
President Biden is in office because he was the candidate that the Democrats had that they thought they could remove Donald Trump from office with. That's why he's in office today. It wasn't to enact a mandate. It wasn't to make sweeping changes to our society. At the level best, it was to get Trump out of office. And really, if it weren't for COVID, Trump would still be president. I know a lot of people freak out and fall out of their chair every time I say that, but that's what would have happened. No, in January of 2020, we had a roaring economy. And it's gone in 2020, of course, because of COVID, it went down the tubes. We're still suffering from that. And now we sit here with, and we talked about this earlier, price of gas up a full $1, price of milk up 75 cents, and a lot of foodstuffs. That's not a good look. That's not a good thing.
No. Well, the other thing is you look at the consumer price index, and a lot of times that does not include food and fuel. It's usually based on the selection of items that doesn't include food and fuel, and that's where the impact is the hardest. And it's a regressive aspect because it affects the people that with the least income the most, and because they still have to feed themselves and they still have to feed their families and they still have to get to work, and all of those things come back. And the key is to make sure that. And this is the one thing that Trump did. He energized those people. He gave those people voice. And I think that they didn't forget it, and they won't forget it. And I think that's something a lot of people, it probably keeps a lot of people awake at night thinking about that.
What, you're telling me there's actual poor people in the United States of America? Alert the Democrats. They apparently don't know.
Well, I think that, the whole movement has always been to create a permanent underclass, and I think that's been one of the things has been the mission. And frankly, both sides of the aisle have been abetting that at some level for the last 40 years. So,
So what would be the purpose of abetting a permanent underclass, a nation of
well,
peons?
the dependency there is the idea is control and dependency. I think that there is I would say that there is a movement certainly in the Republican Party. There is an element in there that is more aristocratic than anything else, and I think that is there is a aristocracy, and oligarchy is the kind of thing that I think that they would like. I think on the Democrat side, it's the matter of control. It's the fact that they would like to control the population, and because they want people to because they know better. They know better. They know better than we do. They're smarter than we are. That again goes to that level of elitism, and it's just a matter of flavor. It's like going to Baskin Robbins. You can have cherry vanilla, or you can have cherry nut, or you can have butter brickle. It's a matter of flavor. You get the same thing. It's still ice cream.
Yeah.
So, it's still ice cream.
Well, politics is car sales, and I say this as the son of a car salesman and a man who sold cars himself. And I remember my dad telling me years ago, he didn't tell me in these exact words, but you create a crisis and you present yourself as the savior. I actually heard him say one time to an older lady, I just hate to think of you out on a country road in the middle of winter in this car. Look at this car over here I've got for sale. Yeah. Sam, I could always talk longer to you, but we're going to have to go. Hey, thanks for being on as always.
Talk to you later.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 4 o'clock. The news is coming up, and then we'll have perhaps the most interesting and fascinating sports talk show in radio, at least in Fort Dodge.
Well, it'll be the most interesting show all day. That,
We gotta go.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
A disappointing day for many Democrats. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. The House Speaker says she was hoping to have votes on both parts of the president's economic agenda. Instead, they may finally separate the two. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says it is time for Congress to press ahead and vote on a $1 trillion infrastructure bill, sending it to President Biden.
So that these jobs can come online as soon as possible. We have waited a while. We had hoped to pass it sooner.
The Senate approved that infrastructure bill several weeks ago with a bipartisan majority. It has stalled in the House amid progressive Democrats demanding a vote first on a larger social spending bill. Democratic leaders had hoped to pass that nearly $2 trillion education, healthcare, and climate bill today. Instead, the House is expected to take a procedural vote that would set up final approval later this month. Lisa.
Jared, thanks. The president making some personal calls to lawmakers today and publicly urging passage of both bills while hailing the new jobs numbers as evidence that he's on the right track. 531,000 jobs created in October. Trial gets underway for 3 white men accused of murdering an unarmed black jogger in their Georgia neighborhood.
In opening statements, prosecutor Linda Dunikoski said all 3 defendants acted on assumptions instead of facts when they cornered 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery on a residential street back in February of 2020.
They made decisions in their driveways based on those assumptions that took a young man's life.
Greg McMichael and his son Travis claimed they suspected Arbery was a burglar and were trying to make a citizen's arrest when shots were fired in self-defense.
Fox's Jonathan Seri in Brunswick, Georgia, a third man filmed the encounter and claims he was just a witness. America is listening to Fox News.
Progressive Motorcycle presents Road Wisdom from the Motor. Half man, half motorcycle.
The road is everything you want it to be.
Everything.
As long as what you want is a road.
To ride your motorcycle on. Progressive Motorcycle also presents basic policy starting at $79 a year. Progressive Motorcycle, for those who were born to ride. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy is not available in all states.
Dell Technologies' biggest business sale of the year has arrived. Step up your vision with top tech up to 45% off during their early access Black Friday event. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Plus, get incredible savings on Windows 11 PCs, along with servers, monitors, and docks, all with free shipping. There's also special financing with Dell Business Credit. Get started by contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
New Jersey's Democratic governor says there is a red wave, sounding grateful it didn't crash on him in Tuesday's elections, but acknowledging what a close race he had.
There's a lot of people out there we still need to touch. Quite clearly, there's a lot of hurt, a lot of people screaming out, basically saying, I need help, and I need government to step in because no one else is stepping in. And we get that.
His Republican opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, has not conceded yet. Phil Murphy, the projected winner, sparing Democrats the loss of a second governor's seat after Republican Glenn Youngkin won in Virginia. Arraignment day for former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has just been postponed from this month to January. Both sides had requested a delay. The Albany County prosecutor telling the judge his office was still investigating last week when the sheriff filed a complaint, which the prosecutor says may be defective for failing to include a sworn statement from the victim. Cuomo had been accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women before resigning in August. He denies it and now faces this misdemeanor count of forcible touching. You may need to be vaccinated to get a higher paying job.
Job search website Ladders says nearly 5% of U.S. and Canadian job postings paying at least $80,000 a year mention vaccine status. That's double the rate from September. Ladders lists higher paying jobs. It primarily represents openings for workers in offices. LinkedIn says of the thousands of companies that made policy entries, 33% added a vaccine policy, and nearly half of those indicated vaccines are required for on-site work.
Fox's Ginny Cosola. What a week on Wall Street, ending with more records. The Dow up 203 to 36,327. The NASDAQ tops 16K for the first time, but closed under it. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Kelly Hennon. 2 teenagers from Fairfield, Iowa have been charged in the murder of Nohema Graber. Graber was reported missing by family members, and her body was discovered Wednesday in a local park. A press release from the Fairfield Police Department said special agents from the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation conducted a preliminary investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death of Graber, which appears to be a homicide. 16-year-old Willard Noble Chaden Miller and 16-year-old Jeremy Everett Goodale have been charged with homicide in the first degree, a Class A felony, and conspiracy to commit homicide in the first degree, a Class C felony. Graber was a Spanish teacher at Fairfield High School, where Miller and Goodale were students. Due to the circumstances and their ages, Miller and Goodale will be charged as adults. The investigation into the incident is ongoing. A bipartisan group of 8 Midwest governors is asking the Biden administration to allow year-round sales of E15. A federal appeals court this summer struck down a 2019 rule which allowed year-round sales of E15 nationwide. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson spoke to Monty Shaw, executive director of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association.
If we are capped at E10, we are at best stuck in neutral, but in reality with better mileage cars, changes in driving habits, and the penetration of electric vehicles, we're actually in reverse and we will wither away.
Shaw said that the productivity of Iowa farmers deserves a home.
The amazing productivity of our farmers needs and deserves a home, and why shouldn't that be a fuel that's lower carbon and lower cost?
The letter from the governors is asking what documents they need to provide to make the change. And the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation is assisting in a homicide investigation in Wright County. According to a press release, the Wright County Communications Center received a call for assistance at an unattended death. Upon response, first responders found an unresponsive male identified as Mario Salvador Lopez. The Wright County Sheriff's Office was notified and the medical examiner was called. Lopez's body was sent to the state office of the Iowa Medical Examiner for autopsy, and his death is being investigated as a homicide. The Wright County Sheriff's Office and the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation continue to investigate the incident. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact law enforcement at 515-532-3722. For more information on these stories and more, log on to yourforddodge.com. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Kelly Heinen.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon with a high of 59. South winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Lows level off around 39. Tonight, clear skies. High temperatures reach up to 68. Tomorrow, mainly clear. Upper 60s. Sunday, cooler on Monday with highs in the low 60s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 58.
Here's how the market trade closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen in for Dwayne Murley. Grains were mostly lower across the board. December core down 6 at a 17 a quarter, 12.05 and a half. December bean meal down 3.10 a ton, 332.70. December soybean oil down 80 points at 58.78. December Chicago wheat 7 at a quarter lower, 766 and a half. December Kansas City winter wheat 7 at a quarter lower, 778 and 3/4. December Minneapolis spring wheat 5 lower at 10.12. December oats 8 higher, 749. Live cattle December up 117, 131.80. February up 127, 137.12. November feeder cattle up 85, 158.87. January up 142, 159.60. December hogs 132 lower, 76.55. February down 70, 79.47. That's how the markets closed on Friday. I'm Jesse Allen reporting for Dwayne Murley.
Michael Devine, Nevin Mulholland, and Randy Kuhlman talking sports at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. And no matter what these guys say, I'm right, of course. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's a sports show, or it's Friday, so we're talking sports. And we're broadcasting from the Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www.ftwater.com. What did you think of the World Series, boys? Huh?
I didn't watch much of it.
You didn't watch much?
I'm kind of embarrassed to say, yeah.
You call yourself a baseball fan in the World Series, Nevin. World Series, not the
Atlanta
playoffs.
and Houston just
I know what you're
didn't
saying.
do much for me, Mike.
I know what you're
There's
saying.
nothing, yeah.
I know what
And
you're
the games
saying.
weren't close.
Mostly they weren't. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
blowout.
I mean, whoever won by several runs, it seemed like.
Yeah,
So,
I did appreciate. I think it was Game 5 where Atlanta hit a grand slam right off the bat.
right.
And they were up 5-0, and by golly, Houston came back. It was a hard-fought contest. It really was.
That was a good game.
They were.
I watched part of that one.
Yeah, they were two good teams, great athletes. What do you want, the pumpkin over there? You're playing with my pumpkins.
Your styrofoam pumpkin.
My styrofoam.
Well, I love the decor and the officer. You really get festive here. I tell you.
Do I look like a decorator to you?
No.
Well, this one's plastic.
Is it?
so-
Oh,
That was
yeah.
plastic. Oh, what do you guys got in your offices? Come on. All right, Nevin, you first.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Oh, great choice. How about you, Randy?
I'm not a Halloween guy. I got
I'm not. But you come over and say, "Oh, boy,
nothing. Well, look, he's got a wreath up there.
I do.
too.
I know it.
It's a classy one. It's a classy one. And I'm bringing in Christmas trees right after Thanksgiving.
Oh, that'll be
brace
nice.
yourself.
Well,
that'll be nice.
I'm glad you at least waited for Thanksgiving
Yeah,
before you did that.
No. We'll do that. We'll do all that stuff. You know, I'm into the holidays. I'd just like to announce right now I'm in the holiday spirit, even though it's a little early. Not according to the retailers, of course, who had their stuff out there since before Halloween. But anyway, so the Braves took it home.
Jorge Soler, most valuable player.
Yeah.
Ex-Cubby.
Yeah.
Wow.
Usually we used to measure a team's success by how many Cubs.
When was
they
he
had.
on the Cubs?
Oh, he was before they traded him to Kansas City.
Huh.
You know, he came from Kansas City. I tell you what, the general manager for the Braves did a remarkable job.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this team went even 500 when he started, and they lost, Acuna or whatever.
Acuna, yeah.
And
Ronald
he
Acuna.
went out and they went all in. They did a terrific job. I'll give the Braves credit. Yeah.
And Acuna's a great player, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great player.
A lot of people the Cubs would have tossed the towel and started trading guys.
I haven't seen have you seen what the TV ratings were on it? I haven't seen it.
They really weren't the greatest. Atlanta and Houston, you know, usually you got to get some coast. I was hoping for a Boston LA
that'd be
series.
fun,
That
yeah.
would have been great. You know, we had the East Coast people and the West Coast people both getting involved. But you know,
I was glad to see Atlanta win it. You know, they hadn't won it since '95, and so
that was
I
a
like to see
great
it.
team too in '95. The Braves in the '90s were top dogs. They
Yep.
were really good.
Ted Turner, right?
Yeah.
They had a lot of good teams, and they never, but for that 1 year, brought it home.
Yeah,
they had
That
great
was the only
pitching.
year, wasn't
Yeah, it was.
the best pitching in baseball.
Yeah, but yeah. So it's a good deal for the Braves. Didn't break my heart that the Astros got beat. You know, and I thought the Astros before the series started was the better team, but obviously they
You
weren't.
said that, and I
Yeah,
don't, and,
yeah.
and I couldn't really argue with you for two reasons. First, I didn't know much about the Braves, and second, I really did think the Astros had the power to pull it off and the juice to pull it off.
Good team.
They're a solid team, very good up and down the lineup. So, and I didn't see a Tom Glavine or Greg Maddox or John Schmaltz on the Braves roster, but by golly, they pulled out a couple of. Who was that? Ian. What the heck is that? 23-year-old young guy.
Yeah, I know exactly. Who
He pitched a no-hitter through 5. And they took him out of the game. Yeah, Anderson, Ian Anderson.
That's what was popping into my head. Yeah.
Wait a minute, wasn't Ian Anderson the lead singer of Jethro Tull?
Maybe that's
Jethro Tull. Wow.
Yeah.
We're going back in time.
I haven't heard of that one in a long time.
A lot of people listening right now go, who?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. This is AM radio. If you're listening to AM radio, you probably remember Jethro Tull.
Yeah, that could be true.
Anyway, well, congratulations to the Braves.
Yes.
It was good to see Greg Maddox and Tom Glavine in the stands. And Schmaltz, of course, was up in the broadcasting booth.
That was Ian Anderson. Nice.
It wasn't Ian.
Way to go.
Way to go.
Mm,
He
yep.
wasn't a long-haired guy playing a flute, was he?
He's a long-haired guy throwing a fastball.
I'm just glad that they didn't call him the Atlanta baseball team instead of the. And they were doing the tomahawk chop and the. So it was, and I didn't hear anybody complain about it.
Who was in the stands giving the tomahawk chalk one night? Trump.
Trumpy.
Nevin's buddy, Trump.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Was he really? I didn't know that.
And Melania looked like she was really having fun.
She didn't have a clue what was going on.
Well, she didn't. I don't think she wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Nevin might be a little grumpy. He was in here for
Sam.
15 minutes listening to Sam Clovis.
I was tortured for a half hour about.
Sam.
Sam, you know Sam.
Oh, I know
Clovis.
Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really an interesting guy, but he was grossing Nevin out right and left. Nevin didn't want to be on the air, so I never said it.
Well, and thank God. It would.
Would you have Sam on this afternoon?
I have him
Just
on
now.
regularly. He's usually on Monday at 3, but I was gone, and I frankly, needed somebody to be in that slot, so we got Sam in there, and he did he's beyond Republican. He's a conservative. He's a conservative guy, but he's a bright guy, great conversationalist. He can tell a story, all those things you need in the radio business,
You know what? Ian Anderson, you know where he went to high school?
I do not.
Graduated from Shenandoah, Iowa.
Are you kidding me? Really?
No.
He went to Shenandoah?
Wow.
Wow.
I thought I'd heard something like this. So I looked, I think that's right. Yeah. Now I don't know where he went to college. Galileo. But Shenandoah.
Boy, I didn't know that. I didn't catch that.
I don't think we heard much about it.
Of course, they don't talk about much about college ball in the in Major League Baseball.
Not much.
In the National Football League, they'll talk up where he went to college.
It's because all the baseball players didn't go to college.
That's right, they didn't.
Well, that's actually, that's a good point.
They didn't.
I mean, most of them didn't.
No,
especially the Dominicans and the.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
But they're great baseball.
Oh, they're great players, without a doubt.
And they came to the United States, and boy, did they make money. I don't know what Jose Baez is making now for the Mets, but it's got to be a pretty good piece.
Javier Baez.
Well, and again, congratulations to the Braves. We got to dive into this Hawkeye debacle. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen last Saturday.
You know what? That is, I don't think he did graduate from Shenandoah. That sounded so weird. Well, he was born. Anyway, go ahead. I'll stay on top.
Yeah,
of this.
yeah, I know you'll.
He's got his research team on.
I still think he's talking about the lead.
No, he did graduate. He graduated, played baseball for Shenandoah, Iowa. Was drafted by the Blue Jays, and they went to Binghamton University.
Binghamton,
yeah, Binghamton. Easy for you guys to say.
What's the matter with him over there?
I don't. He's had a long week. Wow.
Anyway, Randy, you're always the first to stand up for the Hawkeyes, and I get that. I'm okay with that. But you have to admit that game was just terrible. That's 2 in a row.
Well, it was, and I thought our defense actually played pretty well for the most part. I mean, heck, we gave Wisconsin the ball on Iowa 7 with a turnover, and on the 1 yard line with a turnover, and we had a goal line stand, and and you can't keep the defense on the field all day long. You got to have some offense. And this might be the worst offense Ferentz has had in 23 years, quite honestly. We've got a weak offensive line and a quarterback that's like the Statue of Liberty back there that can't move. And I like Petrus. I mean, he looks like a good leader. He looks like a really good kid. But with the offensive line the Hawks have, you got to have a quarterback that can get the heck out of the way and maybe make a play outside the pocket. Otherwise, you're just dead man standing, and that's what we are right now.
He has not come along at all. Ferentz is going to stay with him to the bitter end. I mean, Ferentz.
It might be the bitter end.
It might be the bitter end, yeah. But I'm tuned into Hawk Central, that app that the Des Moines Register sports writers put up, and all of them think that Brian Ferentz ought to step aside. He's just not getting the job done. Is Brian the problem? Or is it a little higher up?
The biggest problem isn't Petrus. It's the offensive line. There are other years Petrus would be adequate quarterback. He'd be fine. But that offensive line is the worst I've ever seen at the University of Iowa, to be quite honest right now.
Right.
And to Randy's point, if that's our line and that's the type what we're going to have for the rest of the year, you have to get a quarterback in there that's more mobile, and you have to move the pocket, because it was very transparent in that Wisconsin game. We have no right tackle. I don't mean to be critical, but we really struggled from that position. And we struggled against Purdue from the right tackle position. And so they're going to have to do some things. I maybe not against Northwestern. I don't know. But after that,
And Petrus just hasn't seemed to develop any kind of a sense or feel of that pressure coming in, and trying to even get out of the pocket, feel it coming in and find a seam and try to get out of the pocket. He just kind of collapses and falls down, and now it's 2nd and 15 or 2nd and 17.
Nobody is mistaking him for Brock Purdy.
No.
Let's go to the phones. AM 1400 KVFD. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
You think maybe the offensive line could use a better strength and conditioning coach?
Where we can get one down in Florida or wherever he is.
Yeah.
That might be the case.
I'm reading something between the lines.
Yeah. What's your point?
You know what the point is.
I know it.
I don't know. I know what these guys are saying about the offensive line, but the problem is at quarterback. Petrus just does not. He can't play at this level.
I listen.
Oh, come on. He's not a 21st century quarterback.
I don't know if he is or isn't. He's not going to have a chance to even show it when you play teams like Wisconsin and Purdue that put that much pressure on you. You don't have a shot. You have to be protected. I don't care how good you are. I don't care. You can be Aaron Rodgers, but if you don't have time, or Tom Brady,
right,
you're just not going to be in very good in that particular game.
It's definitely.
For God's sake, weren't we rated second in the country?
Yeah,
just a couple of weeks ago,
right?
Yeah. But we all knew, and it was kind of this false narrative.
Yeah,
because one, the offense really didn't look good and wasn't very good. Two, we talked about, can you possibly sustain 16 turnovers in the first 6 games or whatever? I go, it's unsustainable. We're not going to keep turning teams over at that rate. And the offense really needs to, and they kind of, it's a little bit of Iowa's, and I'm going to be careful here, but I would use the word arrogance at times, like this is the way we do things and it works for us and we're different than other people. But that offense was not good from day one.
Oh yeah, exactly. And the other problem we have is Goodson, who's our running back, is a horrible blocker. So he can't step up, and when someone's blitzing, take on a blitzer and keep him off the quarterback either. And then that's where Mekhi Sargent last year, he was pretty good at that. And he could step up and take on a linebacker that was blitzing and protect the quarterback. And so even without that, I mean, it's we're dead in the water. And to me, our only chances, and then, evidently Petrus injured himself a little bit in that Wisconsin game. So they took him out in the 4th quarter. They put in the backup Padilla. And he got out of the pocket. Yeah, he got sacked one time, but on a couple other occasions, he got out of the pocket. One play, he extended the play through 27-yard pass play, the longest play of the game for the Hawkeyes. I mean, that's what you got to do. And if you watch Iowa State with Purdy, his best plays are usually out of the pocket where the play gets extended and all of a sudden somebody gets open and they pick up 25, 30 yards.
He's great at creating opportunities off of not broken plays, but scrambling. He's
Right.
really good at that. I mean, you watch him, and
he can use it. He picks up first downs with his legs too.
he's deceivingly. I wouldn't call him fast. He's not slow though,
No, he's
and
not.
he's not. He moves really well.
He does. He's got his agility laterally is very good, and his lower body, his base is really strong.
He doesn't actually go down very easy. At
No,
times.
he doesn't.
He
I mean,
doesn't.
he breaks tackles, and we haven't broken a tackle all year, including our running backs. Quite honestly,
Is Padilla a sophomore or redshirt
he's a
freshman,
sophomore.
or-
He's a sophomore. Yeah,
True sophomore.
yeah.
All right. By the way, if you'd like to join the sports conversation, 955-1400. That's 955-1400. Please feel free. What, we got to tell Flattery he can't call in or what?
Why? Well, what about Iowa State?
Iowa State.
I thought they got hosed.
Yeah, I did too.
Big time.
Yeah.
It was a game where West Virginia's quarterback was absolutely terrific.
It was.
And so Iowa State needed, a break. And had they scored the touchdown, I think they win that game.
Right.
I
Oh,
really,
you know about the fumble?
yeah, the fumble that they ruled was a touchback. And for the life of me, I'm looking at it, I didn't even think it was a close call.
Yeah.
Well, and then there was a play at the end of the game, late in the game, when Purdy was scrambling for a first down,
Mm-hmm.
critical first down. He dives for it. Looked to me like he made it by 2 yards. Got a horrible spot. And the amazing thing was they didn't even review it. They just played on. It's like if they reviewed it, they would have seen that he got the first down.
Isn't that Matt Campbell's duty or obligation?
Well, they don't have a challenge. They don't have a challenge in college.
Do they? Is that, or am I mixing the
No,
pros
that's
up?
pros.
Okay.
But
they don't have a challenge.
No. Now what sometimes a college coach will do will call a timeout.
Yeah.
So that there's more time for the officials upstairs to review something. But yeah, they don't have a challenge in college football.
All right.
And so, I don't know why they didn't review that. It was, I don't know.
It was.
Well, what calls on what grounds would you have a review then?
Bad
It's
spot.
strictly the up
Well,
to
I mean,
the
but who calls a bad spot? Another official? Yeah, you do.
No, upstairs.
Upstairs.
That's what I meant, not me.
Yeah,
No, I
well,
meant
You raise your hand over there.
I was
wow.
told- I
yeah,
know.
I mean, basically the official upstairs has all the discretion on anything he wants to review. And that one, he just fell asleep. I don't know what his story was, but that was a really perplexing one as well.
Yeah. I really thought Iowa State in the final was the better team. I really did. I know what you're saying about the West Virginia quarterback, and I'm not saying that West Virginia is a bad team because they're a good team.
They are a good team.
They played really well.
Yeah, they did.
Saturday.
They were a very
And
aggressive
their
team.
defensive line was very good. They put a lot of pressure on Purdy
Yeah.
last Saturday, and I was amazed with their speed. They had a lot of speed, and their wide receivers made a lot of good plays, and
Yes,
of course
they
the
did.
quarterback threw the ball extremely well, and I couldn't believe that they weren't even 500 team.
Yeah.
Iowa State.
Now, West Virginia is a beautiful state, but it's not heavily populated. I mean,
No.
they have a really superior football team for the population that they can draw from.
Well, but they're out there where there's a lot of football.
There's a lot
players.
east. I know there's a lot of football players.
They're by up there by Pennsylvania,
Yes, they are.
and then they're on the East Coast. So there's,
Yeah, yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen a fan base wearing that many raccoon hats and squirrel hats since the Iowa wrestling team was going to football games.
Iowa wrestling did that one year.
Well, no, you remember when those guys
They were
went
shooting
squirrels in town, the Iowa wrestlers, a
Oh,
couple of years ago?
Yeah, that's right. I thought you
They
guys
went
were
squirrel
referring.
hunting.
we got to do something about that training table.
I thought you guys were referring to our childhood when we had Davy Crockett coonskin caps.
Well, that's what they
there
look
were
like.
a bunch of
But
them in
you know,
the stands
I-
last Saturday.
But you know what? The crowd was terrible there.
No, it wasn't a big crowd.
It was not a big crowd.
Plenty
I
of-
would guess there was maybe 25,000 people there is all. That stadium was half empty.
Yeah.
I was shocked by that.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the guy? Who was the head coach at West Virginia? Went to Michigan.
Rodriguez.
Rich Rodriguez.
Yep.
Yeah, he was.
Then
a
he went
character.
to Arizona.
Then he went to Arizona. And I think
And
he's
then
been out of there.
Yeah, I thought I just read somewhere. I'll have to think of where he is now because I thought he took a job recently.
And what was his problem? I mean, he didn't work out well at Michigan, and Michigan's
No.
got that state old.
He was notorious. He brought in the spread he was a
Spread
spread
offense,
offense
yeah.
guy at
Right.
West Virginia. Had a lot of success there.
Right.
And he tried to bring it to Michigan, and for whatever reason, it just didn't work. And then when Michigan fired him, he got the Arizona job, and things really went south there. Arizona's got some major issues with their football program right now.
Yeah. Wasn't there something at Michigan that
Rich Rodriguez is the head coach at the University of Louisiana at Monroe.
No.
Oh,
kidding.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I thought Rich Rod did something. up
Associate
there.
head coach, excuse me.
I thought he did
associate.
something up there in Michigan that was shady or a violation of the rules or something.
He got in a little trouble at West Virginia, I thought, before he
don't remember.
left too.
Maybe that was
yeah.
it. I don't know. Anyway, it's right at 4:30 here, ladies and gentlemen. It's 58 degrees, and we'll be back. We're talking sports at AM 1400 KVFT.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
The news is next.
At CDW, we get modern servers need to be flexible, scalable, and predictable. I predicted you'd say that. Okay, what will I say next? Probably something about server security. Impressive and freaky. CDW can implement secure Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Gen 10 servers that improve speed and performance while reducing costs.